All right, so this is a Sony A7IV, and I've owned this piece of gear for the past 3 months, and I just felt the need to re-unbox it because what the hell is this bad boy doing just silently? All right, so there's a backstory to this. I started, being a cinematographer. It's been about a decade ago. So I started far back then with Canon 60D. That was more like the most affordable camera then that could give you decent image. And it was an APS-C sensor size camera, which had served me up till, a remarkable, duration. And I must say that I had milked every inch of whatever that camera had to offer. Okay, so it was as if my umbilical cord was tied to Canon 60D. So there were advancements in technology or in camera systems. There was the 5D Mark III, which was a full frame, 5D Mark IV. I couldn't have afforded any of these options as at then, but however, I still needed an upgrade to my camera system since the 60Ds had, gone half of their life, because I don't know, but however, I thought of, the inexpensive options on the lineup of product that were available, and the 80D struck or checked all the boxes. Now, as a cinematographer, there were things I was looking for as at that time, which was the camera must be able to shoot full frame at 50 frames per second so that I can have at least a small slow-mo from there, which I could tell you for free that even the expensive 5D Mark III didn't have that option. 50 frames at 1080, 1920. It didn't have that option. So, which the 80D and the 90D family had that option. And also, guess what? It had the earphone out, so you can have a direct monitoring of your audio input. So that was like a very, very important feature for me as a cinematographer choosing the camera system. Yes, it was quite inexpensive compared in terms of pricing compared to the 5D Mark III and even the 5D Mark IV. So that prompted my choice for the 80D, which I had used for almost another very long time. And then again, systems were upgraded and I felt really left behind. Wow. So, okay, my contemporaries, they had opted for the Sony A7IV, which was like the entry level of Sony Pros then. So it was a pressure for me to make a switch. So, me being who I was, looking at my finances, it wasn't, really that very, very, very strong. Yeah, I had to analyze my options. And guess what? The Panasonic GH5 was my pick as at that time. I must say that was a big, big upgrade for me because up till now, the Panasonic GH5 still remains a very decent camera to pull out very good cinematic images out from it. And of course, it has the Sign-Like D profile. I couldn't afford the log option to pay for, which was like $100, but I couldn't afford that. So I had gone with the default log profile, which is the Sign-Like D on the Panasonic GH5. As well as every other, goodness that comes with it, the 4K, and also it shoots up to 100 and I think 20 frames per second, which was an amazing, stuff there from the Panasonic family line of products. So yeah, the GH5 was an amazing grace for me. And just on the side, I got the Blackmagic 6K, and for just some few shoots, and I had to discard it. Not until the bad boy came. So Sony, I've always eyed, towards tilting into the Sony, family, but it's an expensive product or lineup of product, I must say. Look, there are certain things you can't even tell your wife or girlfriend. One is how much you buy a Sony camera. Okay, so you'd get it tomorrow. So what I mean is these things are quite very pricey, and if you look at them, they are really not. It's like buying an iPhone and as opposed to buying an Android phone. So one is considered luxury and the other is considered, okay, just a work tool. Let's get it working. But however, the luxury still performs, the work, but luxuriously. Okay, so this Sony A7IV is more like a hybrid blend of what Sony had put more like on the high end of their photography and cinematography end of the A7S and the A7R family, and they came together and they had a baby, and the baby was A7IV. This is an amazing piece of gear camera that you need to own as a cinematographer. The only downside to this was, yes, this was my first time owning anything in the Sony ecosystem, so I was just trying to figure out things on my own. And the first time I shot with this was an outdoor event, and the camera overheated and turned off. It really frustrated all my shoots for that day. I was really worried because this was like, I think 2-3 days after I got this, I had that shoot. So I really got frustrated and I contacted the guys at Sony, like, what's going on? Like, I was really worried because after spending such an amount of money and, having to deal with all of this, then I had to go on YouTube just to do my own, due diligence and check if there is a fix for that. And I stumbled on quite a good number of fixes. And one of it was to update the firmware. And the second was to go turn off the high temperature warning system, which triggers the camera into off mode. So that immediately fixed the, auto off on high temperature. And I think that was the only backside of the camera system. But aside that, it's been an amazing piece of gear. You have your 5-axis IB stabilization, and also you have your 4K goodness, and up to 50 frames per second. You have a full-fledged HDMI out. And of course, now the amazing part is the Sony autofocus system. Best in the game. Like every other company is just trying to, catch up. Sony had gotten a hang on this right from day one. So this has been their staple or their flagship in all their line of products. The autofocus system has been, magnificent. It's magic. So like whatever I'm doing, because this was a problem for me in previous shoots I do. I have to, frame my shots in a particular position so that my character, my subject, don't move out of frame, so that, all of that. But right now, I don't bother about that. These are the things that, I think these are the things you spend money on and you sleep, because you know that it's money well spent. This story I have been able to tell you is the fact that you need to stay focused. Don't be in a rush. Enjoy the process and surely have your targets. And of course, hard work would get you there. There's no shortcut to this, except you have a rich uncle or auntie, or of course your parents are the likes of Dangote or Tedola, maybe not Hush Puppy. But yeah, maybe you're just fortunate. You're one of those rich kids that could dish out a few millions into getting the gears, your dream gears instantly. Of course, if you can, buy. But if you can't, just follow this piece of rudiment and you surely get your heart desires in no distant time. All right, so get started. Just keep creating whatever you're creating and don't be limited by whatever you have as your start point, because that's always a start. There must be a starting point, of course. So get started. That's the watchword. Just get started and enjoy the process.